Good morning. We were just joking about how this little thing keeps coming in,
No, it's
and then they said
wonderful.
that it was live streamed already.
Yeah.
Ajahn said it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Not quite sure about that. I
No,
could be
because
really
no,
impish.
no, 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 no.
I could look.
Yeah, it could, yeah. Remember those different types of Buddhism and the one which I follow? Take the H from Hinayana, the Aha from Mahayana, and the Yana from Vajrayana, and that spells Hahayana. And Hahayana is by far the best of the vehicles to actually convey the teachings so we can remember it, and also to understand that this causes a person to be lighthearted, peaceful, and happy. Their happiness is an important part of the result of deep meditation.
Have you started already?
Oh, of course I've started.
Okay.
I'm not going to wait.
Can I just tell them that there's a slight
No,
change?
go on.
Well, there's a slight change this morning, only slight. You won't really notice. We'll have our break at 9:15 till 9:30. Anyway, that's all. And then we'll have our meditation.
We have a break from 8:30 to 9:30.
No, Ajahn. Okay. Carry on.
Okay, that's one of the reasons why. You know what they call a person who's fully enlightened? What do they call
Highly
it?
extinguished.
No, no, or fully enlightened, extinguished, or whatever. It's ha 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 ha. Anyway,
Butch you out of a meditation.
okay, never mind. Anyway, it's also one of the stories I just thought of when I was just walking in here a minute ago. This is not often I do Zoom retreats, but the word Zoom reminded me of a story of how you must be very careful when you finished a retreat. And one of the retreats which I taught, after the retreat had finished, some of the people get so peaceful, so calm. And so this gentleman, after he finished the retreat, he went to work on a Monday morning, and he worked in Perth Zoo. He was one of the zookeepers. And so when he actually got to work on a Monday morning, he checked in with the boss and he said, "Good morning, boss. I just came back from a retreat." He was so mindful, he couldn't do anything else but to be very slow. And so the boss of the zoo thought, what can I do with this man? He's so calm and so peaceful. And he had a brainwave. The boss of the zoo said, "I know just the job for you this morning. You look after the tortoise enclosure." "Oh, yes, I will look after the tortoises." He was such a slow because he'd been meditating for 9 days. So off he went to walk to the tortoise enclosure. He walked very slowly because he was so mindful. And when he actually, later on in the morning, the boss thought he should check up on the guy to make sure that nothing had gone wrong. And so when the boss went to the tortoise enclosure, he saw the tortoise enclosure. The gate was wide open and all the tortoises had disappeared. And the boss said, "What happened to the tortoises? They're all gone." And that's when this meditator, just gone back to work, said, "Well, boss, I just opened the gate." They're all laughing at me here. Give me a chance. I just opened the gate and zoom. So we've got the people actually hearing and the live audience in front of me, they're laughing their heads off.
You see, I on you can show the googles too.
When you're meditating, even the tortoise goes zoom. It's all relative. Anyhow, imagine, don't press anything on the computer. Anyway, so I better restrain myself.
No. I did it. It's your turn.
Okay. But anyhow, that's one of the lovely things which happens with meditation retreats. People going out. Don't go too fast. Oh, yeah. Sorry, let's get myself together.
Amen.
So one of the nice things about doing a meditation retreat, you do get lighthearted. Yeah, lighthearted is another interpretation, another meaning of the lightness which you have in life. Yes, there are some things which are really important, but sometimes we can give too much importance to things. And it's nice being lighthearted, peaceful, and also trusting as well. And sometimes, I know I'm rushing ahead of myself. One of the things I'm supposed to do today is to introduce the practice of dana. And dana is actually generosity. And I know that so many times, if anybody actually employed me, if I wasn't a monk and I was employed to actually run a business, I get the sack in a few hours, simply because a lot of the stuff which I have done in my life, building monasteries and stuff, are totally ridiculous. I remember just this one time when we were looking for a nuns' monastery over in Perth. Okay, so we wanted to give a boost to the female part of Buddhism in Australia. And so we'd actually raised a little bit of funds, not much. And so we went looking for a piece of land to build a nice monastery for women. And I was being taken by these people who had a bit of time off to look for some possibilities of land. And then one place we went to see was only 30 acres. 30 acres? For a nun's monastery? Come on. Our monks' monastery had 90 acres or 99 acres at that time. You have to have it sort of inspiring, a place where females, males, whoever it is, can have a sense of space and freedom. That really helps your meditation enormously. Even right here in Anukampa, I can look out of the window and just see trees all over the place. Nothing but trees. It gives you a sense of space, and you actually are in nature, not in the world. It gives you a chance to develop those perceptions of the reality of nature. So anyway, 30 acres, now come on. But on the way, driving up to this 30-acre property, there was a big sign on the side of the road, 583 acres of perfect solitude. That's what it said. That looks good. Let's go and have a look. And the driver said, Ajahn Brahm, come on, be serious. There's no way in the world we can raise any funds to buy a monastery such as this. It's way out of our price bracket. I said, look, I only asked to have a look. It doesn't cost anything to look. And they said, well, that's right. Let's go in and have a look. So we went and had a look at this 583 acres of solitude. Is it 583 or 563?
83.
583 acres of solitude, beautiful forest, and reasonably close to Perth. And I said, this is perfect. He said, but how are we going to afford it? I said, it's on auction. You know what we did? What I did with another monk, we got there early on the auction day, and my goodness, we did our chanting. We chanted and chanted and chanted and chanted. We really gave it full power. And this was a test for those heavenly beings, these heavenly beings which are supposed to be looking after us. people, do you heavenly beings want a monastery for women in this area? Do you really want it? That's what I was thinking and saying. And we chanted and chanted and chanted before the auction started. I do remember this. Please excuse me, but this is one of those wonderful memories which I have of building monasteries and the power of meditation and the power of chanting, which you put into all of this. And this power of chanting, after doing the chanting, our treasurer was there, and our treasurer, this guy, he said, look, there's no way in the world we can afford anything more than, it was 650,000 Aussie dollars, for 583 acres. We won't be able to do this. So please, 650 maximum. If we can get it for less, that'd be great too. And so what happened then? Have you ever been to an auction before? Auctions are kind of exciting. And when you go to auctions, you don't know who actually is bidding, whether they are real or whether they're just trying to put the price up. And so anyway, the auction started. And it got up to 600,000, 625. And our bidder, he put his hand up and he's... Actually, I got it wrong, didn't he?
Sorry?
No, that's right. We had our maximum was 600,000. And so, yeah, our bidder put his hand up saying 600,000. And then I tried strongest meditation I could to make sure, can you make sure that everybody keeps their mouth closed? But that didn't work. That was actually kind of cheating. So somebody else put their hand up for 625,000. And as soon as they said it, I thought, oh no, we've lost. It's beautiful land, for a wonderful monastery for women in Australia. We've lost it. And then our bidder put his hand up and said 650,000. And I was standing next to the treasurer, and the treasurer was going berserk. He said, stop him, we can't afford that, no way, stop him. And of course, those of you who know me know what I said. I said, no, let it stand. And the treasurer was really gone about almost, I've never seen him so angry in his life. But nevertheless, I wouldn't stop him. And so is that the last bid? The last bid sold. That was actually the reserve price. They wouldn't sort of sell it less than that. So we got it. And then of course, I had the job, and I'm pretty good at doing this with treasurers, to sweet talk the treasurer and to say, oh, let it happen. Come on, there's enough energy behind this. We'll raise the money somewhere or other. And my whole life has been like that, honestly. I'm a bad businessman. That's good, I suppose, because I'm a monk. But anyway, run on faith, run on inspiration. And that's just the same with meditation. Sometimes we have all these methods of meditation, watching the breath, loving kindness, counting the breath, getting nimittas coming up. But the biggest thing is the inspiration which you can make on getting these things, making them actually happen. I don't mind telling this secret. It's not really a secret. But when was it? When I went to Sri Lanka?
About 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. 4 weeks ago, I went to Sri Lanka. And the main reason for going there was going to teach a retreat to the monks and nuns together over in Sri Lanka. But the first thing I did was to have like a little meeting with the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, a new one. And the main thing which I discussed, I said straight away, look, this is Sri Lanka is a Buddhist country. In Sri Lanka, we had a Bhikkhuni Sanghamita. She brought this Bodhi sapling over to Sri Lanka, and it's now still alive at the Mahabodhi tree in Anuradhapura. And I said, you owe that, to the bhikkhunis. the female members of the order. But I said at this moment, the bhikkhunis are not recognized by Sri Lanka. If they wanted to get an ID certificate, they cannot call themselves bhikkhuni on the ID certificate. They cannot get a passport if they're bhikkhunis. And I said, that's wrong. I think many of you would understand that. It's wrong. And she told me it's a very difficult thing because they had to usually go through the head monks in Sri Lanka, and that was difficult for them. But then she actually promised me that she won't forget, that she'd make it happen. And of course, what happened on the 16th of June? The 16th of June was an important day in my calendar in the old days. That was Ajahn Chah's birthday. And that was the day the High Court, the Supreme Court in Sri Lanka, so decided that it was against fundamental human rights to discriminate against the Bhikkhuni Sangha. So they overturned that ruling and made sure that even bhikkhunis can get ID cards now. Now, you may think that's only a small thing. That is actually huge. We're fighting for that, in a very non-violent way. And you can actually do stuff like that because the meditation gives you that confidence. It gives you that patience, gives you the ability. I shouldn't say this also. When you're with a prime minister or with anybody, you can look at them and what you're saying is one thing, but sometimes you're brainwashing their mind at the same time. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But nevertheless, it's too late, yeah. Nevertheless, that actually happens. So now we actually tend to make these things happen. And it's beautiful that they make these things happen. Okay, this is not the story I meant to be, the talk I meant to be talking about, but here it goes again. That, once there was a story in Thai Buddhism which always inspired me. And this was the story just at the end of the Second World War. There was one of these monks, a forest monk, a very good monk, was practicing in Burma. It was Burma then, but Myanmar today. And that's when my ancestors, the Brits, they invaded Burma. They took over Mandalay. And at that the Brits and that Thailand seceded to the Japanese. And so the Brits thought that all Thais, including Thai monks, were spies, for Japan. And because of that, all the Thai monks in Burma were told, please leave the country because it's going to be dangerous for you. Even though most of those monks, they were just meditators, got caught up in politics. And so one of these monks said, okay, I'll go back to Thailand, but don't go along the main roads because they'll be watched. So he had to go over the jungle paths. And it took about a month. And there's hardly any people living on those jungle paths. And I know the Thai side of those borders, and those hills are really steep. And so he started his journey to safety by walking over the jungle paths back into Burma to Thailand. And it got to a time where he was really exhausted. He hadn't met any villagers for a while, so he hadn't eaten for days. And he was getting very weak. It's enough just not eating very much and you're just meditating, but when you're walking through the jungles and it's very steep paths, that's really exhausting. And that's when he started to contemplate that in the suttas that sometimes they talk about heavenly beings looking after monks, especially if the monks are in deep trouble. So he made a resolution. He said, look, I'm not joking. He was saying that, I could very easily die because I'm so weak and so tired, haven't had a meal in days. So if there are heavenly beings, I'm a good monk, and I am committed. I practice well. I don't ask for anything. But maybe for once, those heavenly beings can look after me. And this was his story. He just turned a corner in the path a short time later, and he saw there was a man on the side of the road just with a tiffin can. And this man was well dressed. If ever you've been in jungles or seen photos of jungles, the people who actually live in the jungles, they wear rags. And this guy was well dressed, and he had a tiffin can. Now, the next thing to know is that now in the Thai tradition, that the monks would, even though they're on alms round, they would walk past. They would never stop. They would wait for the person who was wanting to give them something to say the Thai word Nimon Krap, or if they were a woman, Nimon Ka. That was just a way of indicating that they had something to offer to that mendicant, that monastic. So he walked past this guy, and then he heard this guy say, Nimon Krap. And so the monk stopped, opened his bowl, and then this guy with a tiffin can gave him hot food. I don't mean chili hot, I mean just very warm, as if it was just cooked. The rice, the curries, the fruit, the dessert, whatever it was, like a full meal. And of course, he thought, how can this happen? Now, just, this is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, really middle of nowhere. Was it 50 years, 60 years ago? More than that, isn't it? 1940 or something? 80 years ago. Goodness gracious. Mm-hmm. How did he know I was coming? How did he know just to bear hot food? And so this monk received the food, and that's when he did something which in those days a monk was not really permitted to do. He looked at this guy and asked him, where are you from? Where are you from? He hadn't seen a village or a town in days. And this is how it was told. This guy who just offered him food never spoke. He just had his finger and said, up. And he always says that was a heavenly being who was helping out someone who really needed some help. Now Ajahn Brahm's story, based on this. Please excuse me for saying it, but it kind of fits in. And Ajahn Brahm's story, that, was it 45 years ago? That's right, yeah. When I was 5 years as a monk, I made a vow just not to take any transport, to walk through the mountains in northeast Thailand. There was an area which was just being developed, and there was hardly any houses, not many roads at all. And when I was walking through that area of Thailand, just carrying everything I owned on my back, that I too, started to struggle. It was very hot, and I had not seen any source of water in hours. And my little flask which I put water in was dry. And I realized that I was in danger of heat stroke. I think I did have a little bit of a heat stroke later that evening. But nevertheless, I thought this can be dangerous. I thought I was exaggerating, but it's not. You can very easily get sick from heat stroke. And that's when your feet start to expand as well because of the heat stroke. So I remembered that story of this famous monk, and then I said to myself, I'm a good monk. I was a good monk. And I said that, this is dangerous for me. And I said, I did see at a ridge of the mountains, I'm just going to go into this valley shortly. And I did see that there was a small settlement in there, about 5 or 6 houses. And I knew from experience that one of those houses would be the general store. And the general store will have things like kerosene and matches and rope. And I know one of the other things they'd always have in those general stores were Pepsis. And I made a, you may think this is silly, but I made a vow to myself. I'm a good monk and I actually do need something. I can't ask for it. So if there are heavenly beings, I made this vow. I was a scientist before. I love doing experiments to see if this is real or not. If there are heavenly beings, can I have a Pepsi? Now, you may think that Pepsi is bad for your health, but that's just what was common in that part of Thailand. When people get a bit sort of dehydrated, they have a Pepsi. Sometimes it's cold, and then it just revives you, gets you going. They don't give you water. Water can be quite actually dangerous to drink in those wilderness areas. So anyway, I made a vow. If there are heavenly beings, may I have a Pepsi? This is a true story. And so I walked into that village and I was extremely restrained. I didn't look to the left or to the right. I didn't look up. It was just like doing walking meditation. I kept my gaze about a body length in front of me, just walking slowly, not making any noise, not looking anywhere, just walking slowly through. And as I was walking slowly through the village, I could see I could see just at the corner of my eye, I did pass that. I did pass that store, the general store, and I kept on walking. I never stopped. That's our custom in Thailand, not to stop, not to ask for anything. Just kept on walking, and everyone ignored me. And I thought, oh, well, never mind. I just carry on walking. There are no heavenly beings. And then what happened next was mind-boggling. You know the word mind-boggling. I could hardly believe this. I heard someone running behind me. Nimon Krap, they shouted at me. I never actually said anything. And when I stopped and turned around, this man had an open bottle of Pepsi Cola. He just bought it and opened it and presented it to me. Nimon Krap offered it to me. And I thought that was very nice, but that could be coincidence. And then another man ran with a second bottle of Pepsi Cola open for me. Nimon Krap. And then a third, and a fourth, and then a fifth, and then a sixth, and then a seventh, and then an eighth, and finally a ninth. 9 open bottles of Pepsi Cola. Not even I could drink that much. And I had a little bench outside the shop. So I put all those 9 bottles next to each other. We didn't have mobile phones in those days, but it would be wonderful if someone had taken a picture of this monk sitting in front of 9 open bottles of Pepsi Cola. And those of you who know the Thai culture, what is the lucky number in Thailand? It's always the number 9. I remember when the present king of Thailand, that day he was the crown prince, when he got married, and they invited, I was only a young monk, I just happened to be in Bangkok, and they invited 999 monks for the offering at his wedding.
Not a single bhikkhuni, Ajahn.
They weren't bhikkhunis then. They would change now. But anyway, 999 was the magic number. In China, Malaysia, Singapore, it's 888. It's in Korea, it's 777. But anyway, 9 bottles of Pepsi Cola, unasked for. That's never happened to me, never anywhere close in all those years I was in Thailand. But it's proved to me there are such things as heavenly beings who can look after you. Good beings. If you are good precepts, if you are kind, do lots of loving kindness, of course, you get attracted to them, they get attracted to you. And that's one of the reasons your monasteries are so often safe from things like bushfires, from other things which otherwise could affect you. It's as if there's other beings in the area who really, 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 really want to make sure you're safe and to see bhikkhunis, in Oxford grow and flourish. It's not just for the human beings, but all other beings as well. And please excuse me, I'm not a crazy monk. I was a theoretical physicist. So I don't actually accept these things unless there's hard proof, which certainly has convinced me over these years. But it's not just, on material things like getting a Pepsi Cola. And I don't drink Pepsi Cola anymore. So don't come and offer me a Pepsi Cola. That was a long time ago, and that was because of a very hot climate. And that's the only thing available, basically, which was clean. So sometimes that when we create a monastery, when we create sort of good monks and good nuns, good bhikkhunis, and good even anagarikas, you find you can go to some of those places, some of those areas to sit meditation, and they got more power than other places. I know one of those places, and I know that Ayachanda is waiting to get over there, is the main hall in Bodhinyana Monastery. We've had that hall for so many years now. And so many people, I'm sure there's some of you anyway, who've actually gone over there and sat meditation in that room, in the main hall in Bodhinyana Monastery. And it's really got some energy there, some powerful energy. Some of you may have gone to the holy sites in India and actually sat meditation in some of those places. That also has great energy there. The place I always liked was Vulture's Peak. That's one of the places where the Buddha would meditate. And I remember in those first days I went to Vulture's Peak, there was a big rock outside, and it was like shaped like a vulture, like a bird. I don't know if that's still there. I saw some of it had already been broken off. When people get to know about these things, that sometimes tourists or whatever want to take a memento, which means that it's not left for anybody else. But I remember that place, it's so easy to meditate in there. Sometimes the place is important, wherever you want to meditate. It's one of the reasons why I would ask you at the end of this retreat, whenever you want to carry on your practice of meditation, it's not just your attitude towards the meditation or how you practice meditation. It's also the place as well, which is one of the reasons why in your house, apartment, or even garden or somewhere, if you possibly can you actually have a little room or part of a room or even a cupboard? Cupboard will do, because that's the place where you meditate. It's your meditation spot. And after a while, you just keep it a simple place. You don't do anything else in there, just for meditation, or maybe listening to a Dhamma talk or reading a Dhamma book, but nothing else, nothing worldly. That is your little temple, a little monastery, in your own house. And see if you can use that place when you're at home to do your meditation. It does actually build up energy. The energy which it builds up means that when you need to go and have some peace and quiet, you need some stillness, a space of safety, you can go in there, and as you go in there and start sitting down, you find it's easier to get into meditation. It's a place for meditation. And not only that, there's these two people who followed that advice, and it was a place under the stairs. And they cleaned it out, and that was their meditation place where they could find a bit of peace and quiet. And they told their children, they had two young children, girl and a boy, maybe 5 or 6 or something, around that age. And they said, please don't come in here. This is our meditation place. And the children were very respectful. And they used to meditate there in the evening or in the afternoon, whenever they had the time. And one day they noticed the two children, they fought. It's just children, bit of jealousy. And for the first time in her life, the sister, so the young daughter, was hit by her big brother. And that was the first time that it ever happened. Of course, they were playing around quite forcefully. For the first time, she was hit by her brother. The brother was sad. He shouldn't have done that. But what the girl did, straight away she ran into the house and she opened the cupboard door and sat in the quiet place. And there was one time the mum and dad said, yes, good. Of course you can sit in there, because she was so upset. And she could feel this was a place of safety, a place of peace, a place where she could recover, from the shock of being hit and hurt by someone she loved. So these little places which you can have in your house, where you can put down some cushions, chairs, however you feel comfortable, are a great asset for you. It's your meditation room, your meditation corner. And if you can do that, it builds up energy and the meditation gets so much easier in that place. I know many times people love coming to, again, that monastery. Once we had a Feng Shui expert, came, because, we have lots of disciples from Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong. And this Feng Shui expert came into our meditation hall and he was amazed. He said, the front of your meditation hall has got some of the strongest Feng Shui I've ever known in my life. And that's how strong it was. So the back was not so strong, but the front was incredibly strong. And all those years we've been meditating in there, all those incredible meditations we've had, all those amazing monks and nuns we've had sat there, and you can go and sit there. You can understand why it builds up the energy and the power. So the retreat is kind of end this evening, but it doesn't really end. Nothing ever really ends that way. No, for me, we've got another retreat on the weekend. I've got another retreat the weekend after. When I get back to Perth, there's more people coming from Indonesia and Hong Kong to do a retreat over in Ajahn Grove. Then we have the rains retreat. Sometimes it's one retreat after another, and I'm very happy having retreat. I don't know actually why they call them retreats. Retreats is where you go backwards. It should be not a retreat in advance, but going forward. But nevertheless, I hope you didn't retreat and didn't advance. You went in. That is where the best things are found. Stay where you are, content, peaceful, and you go in, inside. And inside you feel totally safe, really at peace. More peace than you ever thought was possible in life. Fully aware and still. And that stillness. I had one of my most, have I got time to finish?
5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes, oh good. One of the most wonderful experiences, memories I have of UK was when, having been a monk for about 7 years, I think, that was when I went to go and visit my mum over in London. And I made a point of making sure I went to a monastery every fortnight, just to check in with my monasticism, seeing other monks. And one of the first monasteries which I visited on that trip was the monastery over in Chittos. It was just basically being brought and just being made possible that monks could stay there. And that was in the, I'm a really dumb monk, Christmas time. Because Christmas time, I thought, was a time when you could visit everybody. And so It was in December, and that year was really cold, minus 23 degrees centigrade. And somebody even showed me a copy of the newspaper, the morning newspaper, and had headlines. And the headline was, "Even the beer froze." And that's what's important in UK in those days. Even the beer froze. So anyway, because I was a visitor, and I loved being a visitor rather than an owner. I mentioned that before. If you're a visitor, then you have much more peace. You don't have responsibilities. You take responsibilities later. But every now and again, be a visitor. And so, because I was a visitor, I had total freedom. So I put on as many scarves, clothes as I possibly could find, all monk clothes, and hats, the beanies. And I put on so many robes and clothes, I was actually well insulated. So I didn't really feel the heat. Or the cold. I didn't feel anything. So well insulated. So anyway, I went out into the forest, and that was magical at that time. It was magical. It was so cold that no cars were on the road. All the roads were snow closed, and there was no aircraft in the sky. All the airports were closed. There's no birds in the sky. There's no people outside. Only what they used to call, not mad dogs and Englishmen, mad monks and Englishmen. That was me. Was out in the midnight, not in the midnight, out in the midwinter snow. But it was amazing. It's an experience I have never forgotten, never will forget, because it was so quiet. There's no noise at all. No animals were out in the forest. They were all hibernating. The stream, the creek there, was frozen over. There's nothing making any noise at all. Only my boots in the snow. And when I stopped walking, it's like the whole universe stopped. Nothing moved. Totally peaceful. No one was around. Just the forest, that part of the world. I was the only one moving. And it was such a beautiful experience. It's just full of meaning, full of delight. I didn't mind the cold because what it was replaced with was silence, total silence, real peace. Nothing was moving at all, stillness. And I stayed out there probably much longer than I should have, but I enjoyed every moment of that because the stillness, the peace, was more than worth it. So that became just how I kind of enjoyed and found the beautiful pleasures, peace, meaning in places you never expected it. So after the retreat, if you don't want to walk out in the snowfields at Christmas time in UK, at least have a nice little hut under your stairs. Apparently that's where Harry Potter used to live, under the cupboard under the stairs. I kind of recommend it for you, for anybody. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and no one expects you to be there. Best still places in the world are places where no one expects. So anyway, that is 9:15. I don't know if you enjoyed that talk, but in all these talks which I give, the best ones, I haven't got a clue what I'm going to say. Just let it come out. And it brings lovely memories of monastic life, lovely memories of peace and stillness, of meditation, and also of even heavenly beings.
I'll just have to show them a photo.
Okay.
This is what happened when Ajahn Brahm came here. Can you see that?
What is it?
You see another one? See that?
Oh,
And then one more.
I haven't seen him. Don't know what you're laughing at.
It's the cupboard under the stairs.
Oh, okay, yeah. I love cupboards. Cupboards are simple, they're really nice size, and people leave you alone in there. I still remember.
It's just
Another
cute.
cupboard. What's this cupboard? Oh, yeah.
We have to finish there, Ajahn.
Okay, just one quick
Yeah.
story.
Oh.
I forgot what I was going to say now. Okay, never
About
mind.
cupboards.
Oh, yeah. So this years and years and years ago, actually not that many years ago, over in New York, there was a lawyer disciple, and the lawyer disciple, he was actually doing criminal cases and defending clients who were accused of, these acts where if they were found guilty, they would face the electric chair. So imagine how much stress that was. If you made a mistake and you lost the case, your client would be executed. So it's a high stress job. And the way he dealt with that stress, he advised to meditate. And so what he did, he found a cupboard in his office, and he cleaned out that cupboard and moved all the pieces of paper. There's always too much paper in an office. He moved them out, stored them somewhere else. And that was his cupboard where he would meditate. Every lunch hour, he would go in his cupboard, and the secretary would lock the door and put him in his cupboard for an hour so that he could meditate. And he said she did that because he was a much nicer boss in the afternoon after he'd done his meditation. Otherwise, he'd get very cranky at her. And number two, that he won more cases. He was much more focused. So, and when anybody called for him, the secretary would always answer the phone or the email or whatever it was and say, "I'm sorry, he's not in the meeting. I'm sorry, he's in his cupboard." And he got well known for the lawyer who spent an hour every day in the cupboard.
That's very good.
Yeah.
How long do you spend every day in the cupboard?
As long as I can.
Your whole cave is cupboard.
Oh,
really.
yeah.
Anyway, that's another story. So now it's time for a break until 9:30.